For years, she spoke to the millionaire in a coma, never imagining he heard every single word. Hello, let's hear another incredible story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. I love narrating stories for you, so get ready. Let's start. The fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital cast their familiar pale glow across the ICU as Maya Johnson pushed through the double doors, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. At 29, she had perfected the art of bringing warmth to the coldest places, and the intensive care unit was no exception. Good evening, room 314. She called out softly, her voice carrying that mix of professional care and genuine affection that had made her the favorite among patients and their families. Ready for another riveting night together? Marcus Bennett lay motionless in the hospital bed, his once powerful frame now dependent on machines that beeped steadily in the dim light. 3 years had passed since the car accident that had stolen Chicago's most notorious playboy from the headlines, leaving behind only whispered speculation about the man who had built an empire before his 35th birthday. Maya approached his bedside with practiced ease, checking his monitors with the efficiency of someone who had performed this routine thousands of times. But Marcus was different from her other patients. She couldn't explain why, but something about him made her feel connected. "So, Prince Charming," she began, adjusting his blankets with gentle hands, "I have news. Remember that guy I told you about last week, the one who took me to that fancy restaurant?" She paused, as if waiting for a response she knew would never come. "Well, turns out he expected me to split the check at Le Bernardin. Marcus, can you believe that?" What Maya didn't know was that Marcus Bennett was experiencing every word with crystal clarity. Locked-in syndrome had trapped his consciousness inside an unresponsive body, but his mind remained sharp, aware, and increasingly captivated by the woman who treated him like a human being rather than a medical case. His heart rate monitor registered a subtle increase, barely perceptible, but consistent enough that it had puzzled the day shift nurses for months. If only they knew it spiked every time Maya entered the room. "You know what the worst part was," Maya continued, her hands working efficiently as she checked his IV lines. "He actually said, and I quote, 'I believe in equality between the sexes.' Equality, Marcus. As if equality means making a nurse split a $200 dinner bill." Marcus wanted to laugh, to tell her that any man worthy of her time would consider it a privilege to spoil her, to make her smile the way she was smiling now as she recounted her dating disasters. Instead, he remained trapped, a prisoner in his own body, falling deeper in love with a woman who saw him as nothing more than a confidant who couldn't judge her. "Oh, I swear, if you ever wake up and want to take me to dinner, at least I know you'd have the class to pay for it," Maya said, her tone shifting to something softer, more vulnerable. That is, assuming billionaire playboys are actually as charming as the magazines claim. She moved to the window, adjusting the blinds to let in just enough moonlight to create a peaceful atmosphere. "Sometimes I wonder what you were really like, you know? Before all this. The papers made you sound like this larger-than-life figure, but sitting here with you, you seem different, peaceful." Marcus felt a surge of emotion so powerful, it physically ached. If he could speak, he would tell her that she was wrong. He hadn't been peaceful before. He'd been empty, driven by nothing but the next deal, the next conquest, the next meaningless achievement. She had brought him more peace in 3 years of one-sided conversations than he had experienced in his entire adult life. "My shift supervisor gave me some bad news today," Maya said, settling into the chair beside his bed, a ritual she had developed over the months. "Budget cuts. They're letting go of some of the night shift staff." Her voice wavered slightly. "I might not be here much longer." The heart monitor registered another spike, this one more pronounced. Maya glanced at it with mild concern before continuing. "I know it's silly, but I'll miss our talks. You're the best listener I've ever had," she said, with a soft laugh that didn't quite hide the sadness underneath. "Plus, you never try to give me dating advice or tell me I'm too picky." She reached out and gently touched his hand, a gesture that sent electricity through Marcus's entire nervous system. "Good night, my favorite patient." "Sweet dreams." As Maya's footsteps faded down the corridor, Marcus lay in the darkness, his mind racing. The thought of losing her, of facing endless days without her voice, her touch, her presence, filled him with a desperation he had never known. For the first time in 3 years, Marcus Bennett fought against his unresponsive body with every ounce of will he possessed. His fingers twitched almost imperceptibly, a movement so slight it would go unnoticed by anyone who wasn't looking for it. But it was a beginning. Dr. Samuel Rodriguez rubbed his tired eyes and leaned back in his office chair, the stack of patient files before him seeming to multiply in the late afternoon light. As the newest neurologist at St. Mary's, he had inherited some of the hospital's most complex cases, including the mysterious Marcus Bennett. Something about Bennett's case bothered him. The man had been classified as being in a vegetative state for 3 years, yet his brain scans showed unusual patterns of activity. More intriguingly, his vital signs seemed to fluctuate in ways that didn't align with typical coma patients. Samuel pulled up Marcus's chart on his computer, scrolling through months of data. There, heart rate spikes occurring with remarkable consistency during night shifts. He cross-referenced the timing with staff schedules, and a pattern emerged that made his pulse quicken. The spikes coincided almost perfectly with Maya Johnson's shifts. "Interesting," he murmured, making a note to observe the patient more closely. Samuel had noticed Maya during his first week at the hospital. It was impossible not to. She had a warmth that seemed to brighten even the sterile ICU, and he'd found himself looking forward to their brief interactions during shift changes. Later that evening, Samuel made his way to room 314, clipboard in hand. Through the partially open door, he could hear Maya's voice, soft and conversational. "So I was thinking," she was saying, "maybe the problem isn't the men I'm dating. Maybe the problem is that I keep comparing them to impossible standards. And I find myself thinking, would Marcus approve of this guy? Which is completely insane because, no offense, you're unconscious." Samuel felt a strange pang of something that might have been jealousy. He stepped back, conflicted between his professional curiosity and his personal feelings. But as a doctor, he had a responsibility to investigate any unusual patterns in his patients. He waited until Maya had finished her rounds before approaching Marcus's bedside. The monitors showed normal readings now, but Samuel had an idea. "Hello, Mr. Bennett," he said in a clear, professional tone. "I'm Dr. Rodriguez, your new neurologist. I've been reviewing your case." No response. As expected. "I'm going to try some new tests," Samuel continued, watching the monitors carefully. "I want you to know that if you can hear me, if you're aware, we're going to figure out a way to help you communicate." Still nothing. But then Samuel had another thought. "I understand you've grown close to one of our nurses, Maya Johnson. She speaks very highly of you." There, a subtle but unmistakable spike in heart rate. Samuel felt his own pulse racing. "Mr. Bennett, if you can hear me, if you understand what I'm saying, try to think about something that makes you happy. Focus on that feeling." The heart rate climbed steadily higher. "My God," Samuel whispered. He immediately began a more thorough neurological examination, testing reflexes, checking pupil responses, looking for any signs he might have missed. As he worked, his mind raced with the implications. If Marcus Bennett was conscious, if he had been aware all this time, then every conversation, every intimate moment Maya had shared. "Doctor!" Samuel turned to find Maya standing in the doorway, her expression curious and slightly concerned. "Maya, I didn't hear you come in." He tried to keep his voice steady, professional. "I was just conducting some follow-up tests. Is everything all right?" His heart rate seems elevated. She moved to Marcus's side with the easy familiarity of someone who had spent countless hours there. "Actually, I wanted to ask you about that. Have you noticed any patterns in his vital signs? Any responses that seem unusual?" Maya considered the question, her brow furrowing slightly. Well, sometimes I think his breathing changes when I'm talking to him, but I always assumed that was just wishful thinking. Why? Samuel watched as Maya's presence caused another subtle shift in Marcus's readings. It might not be wishful thinking. Maya, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully about your answer. When you're with him, do you ever feel like he's listening? That's a strange question. Maya's voice carried a note of defensiveness. I mean, I talk to him because it feels right, not because I think he can actually hear me. That would be... She trailed off, looking down at Marcus with new uncertainty. It would be what? Impossible, she whispered, but her eyes never left Marcus's face. Wouldn't it? Samuel moved closer, his voice gentle but urgent. That, Maya, what I'm about to tell you might be difficult to process. I believe Marcus may have a condition called locked-in syndrome. It means he could be fully conscious, fully aware, but unable to move or speak. The color drained from Maya's face. That's not possible. He's been like this for 3 years. If he could hear me, if he was aware, then he's heard every word you've said to him. Maya sank into the chair beside Marcus's bed, her hands trembling slightly. Every word, she repeated, her voice barely audible. Oh God, Samuel, the things I've told him, personal things, embarrassing things. Maya, I need some air, she said abruptly, standing and moving toward the door. I need to think about this. As she left the room, Samuel noticed Marcus's heart rate spike dramatically, then settle into an irregular rhythm that spoke of distress. He made detailed notes in the chart, his mind already working on plans for comprehensive testing. But as he prepared to leave, he couldn't shake the image of Maya's stricken face, or the uncomfortable realization that his medical discovery had just complicated things in ways he hadn't anticipated. In the bed, Marcus lay in emotional turmoil. The hope of finally being understood warred with the terror of losing Maya forever. He had seen the look in her eyes, not wonder or joy, but horror at the violation of privacy she perceived. For the first time since his accident, Marcus Bennett wished he really was unconscious. Maya stood in the hospital parking lot, the cool Chicago air doing little to calm the storm of emotions raging inside her. 3 years. 3 years of pouring her heart out to someone she thought couldn't hear her, sharing her deepest fears, her most embarrassing moments, her most private thoughts. The memory of every conversation crashed over her like a tidal wave. The night she'd cried about her ex-boyfriend's betrayal, the time she'd admitted to feeling like a failure, the countless moments she'd shared her dreams, her insecurities, her hope for love, and worse, the night she'd almost kissed him. She buried her face in her hands, mortification burning through her chest. How many times had she touched his hand, stroked his hair, adjusted his position with an intimacy that had felt natural because she thought he was unaware? Her phone buzzed, a text from her best friend, Leah. How's the night shift treating you? Maya stared at the screen, unable to even begin to explain the bombshell that had just exploded her world. Instead, she typed back, complicated. Call you tomorrow. She knew she had to go back inside. Her shift wasn't over, and despite everything, she was still a professional. But facing Marcus now felt impossible. When she finally returned to the ICU, she took the long route to avoid room 314, busying herself with other patients and paperwork. But Dr. Rodriguez found her at the nurse's station an hour later. Maya, we need to talk. She looked up from the chart she'd been staring at without reading. If this is about Marcus, it is, and I understand this is overwhelming, but we need to run some tests. If I'm right about his condition, he needs specialized care. And if you're wrong, then we'll have ruled out a possibility and moved on. But Maya, the evidence is pretty compelling. His vital signs react to your presence in ways that suggest awareness. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. His vital signs react to me? Samuel nodded, his expression grave. Doug, consistently, heart rate increases when you enter the room, decreases when you leave. It's subtle, but it's there. For how long? From what I can tell from the records, probably from the beginning. Maybe not immediately after his accident, but certainly for the past couple of years, the full weight of the implications hit her. He's been listening to me for 2 years, watching me take care of him, watching me... She couldn't finish the sentence. Maya, if he is conscious, then he chose to listen. You gave him something during what must have been the most terrifying, isolating experience of his life. You gave him companionship. I gave him a front-row seat to my personal therapy sessions, Maya said bitterly. Do you know what I told him, Samuel? I told him about every failed relationship, every insecurity, every fear. I told him things I've never told anyone, and maybe that's exactly what he needed to hear. Maya looked at him sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Think about it. He was one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors, surrounded by people who wanted something from him. When was the last time someone talked to him without an agenda? When was the last time someone saw him as just a person? The question hung in the air between them. Maya had never thought about it that way. I need to see him, she said quietly. Are you sure? Maya nodded, though her heart was racing. If he's really aware, if he's been listening all this time, then leaving him alone right now would be cruel. They walked to room 314 together, and Maya paused at the threshold. The room looked exactly the same as it had an hour ago, but everything felt different now. Marcus lay in the same position, his face peaceful in the dim light, but she found herself searching for signs of awareness she'd never noticed before. Hello, Marcus, she said softly, stepping into the room. The heart monitor's beeping immediately quickened. Samuel made a note on his clipboard. Consistent response, he murmured. Maya approached the bed slowly, her previous ease replaced by nervous uncertainty. I don't know if Dr. Rodriguez is right about you being able to hear me, but just in case... She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry if I said things that made you uncomfortable. I never meant to invade your privacy. The heart rate spiked, then settled into a rapid but steady rhythm. I'm going to take that as acknowledgement, Samuel said quietly. Marcus, if you can hear us, we're going to run some tests tomorrow. We're going to try to find a way for you to communicate. Maya watched the monitors with new eyes, noting every fluctuation. How long have you suspected? About a week. I've been reviewing cases of misdiagnosed vegetative states. It's more common than people think. And if the tests confirm it, then we figure out how to give him his voice back. Maya looked down at Marcus, really seeing him for the first time in years. Not as a patient, not as a convenient confidant, but as a man who might have been trapped in his own body, listening to her ramble about her life while unable to respond. If you can hear me, she whispered, leaning closer, I need you to know that talking to you helped me too. Even if it was one-sided, it never felt one-sided. It felt like friendship. The word hung in the air, inadequate for the complex emotions swirling between them. Maya reached out hesitantly and touched his hand, the same gesture she'd performed hundreds of times before, but now it felt electric with possibility. We're going to figure this out, she promised, and for the first time since learning the truth, she felt a spark of hope rather than mortification. In his silent prison, Marcus felt that spark too, and for the first time in 3 years, he allowed himself to believe that his nightmare might finally be ending. The EEG machine hummed quietly in room 314 as Dr. Rodriguez attached the final electrode to Marcus's temple. Maya stood near the window, her arms crossed, watching the proceedings with a mixture of hope and dread. The brain activity we're seeing is remarkable, Samuel said, studying the patterns flowing across the screen. This is definitely not a vegetative state. Maya moved closer to look at the monitor. What exactly am I looking at? Normal, healthy brain function. See these waves here? Samuel pointed to a series of spikes. This is the pattern we see in fully conscious patients. Marcus, if you can hear me, I want you to think about moving your right hand. They watched the screen intently. Almost immediately, the motor cortex area lit up with activity. My God, Maya breathed. He's really in there. Now think about your left foot, Samuel continued. Again, the corresponding brain region activated on command. Marcus, Maya said, her voice trembling slightly, can you hear me? The response was immediate and unmistakable, a surge of activity across multiple regions of his brain. Samuel began disconnecting the electrodes. We need to establish a communication system. The standard method is eye movements. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no. Marcus, can you try to blink once if you understand? They both focused intently on Marcus's face. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, slowly, deliberately, his left eyelid fluttered closed and opened. Maya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. He did it. He actually did it. Let's try 2 blinks for no, Samuel said. Marcus, are you in pain right now? 2 distinct blinks. Are you comfortable? 1 blink. Do you understand that Maya is here with you? 1 blink, followed by what looked almost like an attempt at a smile. Maya felt tears pricking her eyes. How long have you been able to do this? Blink, I mean. Marcus's response was hesitant. 1 blink, then a pause, then another single blink. I think he's saying it's recent, Samuel interpreted. Marcus, have you been able to blink for less than a week? 1 blink. Less than a day? 1 blink. Maya sank into the chair beside his bed, overwhelmed. So yesterday, when I was here talking about my terrible date, you were 1 blink. And this time, there was definitely a hint of amusement in his expression. Oh God, I'm so embarrassed, Maya said, covering her face with her hands. Samuel cleared his throat. Marcus, do you want Maya to continue visiting you? The response was immediate and emphatic. 1 strong blink. Do you want her to keep talking to you? Another definitive yes. Maya looked up from her hands. Really? Marcus blinked once, and somehow managed to make the simple gesture feel like a caress. I have so many questions, Maya said. But first, are you scared? 2 blinks for no, then a pause, then 1 blink for yes. Both, Samuel said. That makes sense. What are you most scared of? Maya asked, then immediately shook her head. Sorry, that's not a yes or no question. Marcus's eyes tracked to her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. Are you scared of being alone again? She asked quietly. 1 blink, so emphatic it was almost violent. You won't be, Maya said firmly. I promise you won't be alone. Samuel finished packing up his equipment. I'm going to contact a colleague who specializes in assistive communication technology. There are computer systems that can track eye movements and translate them into speech. It'll take some time to set up, but we can give you a real voice, Marcus. Marcus's response was a series of rapid blinks that clearly communicated excitement. In the meantime, Samuel continued, we'll work on expanding your communication options. We can create cards with common words and phrases, use alphabet boards, that sort of thing. What about his recovery? Maya asked. If he's this aware, is there a chance he could regain movement? It's possible. Locked-in syndrome has various causes and degrees of severity. We'll need to do more extensive testing, but the fact that he's already regaining some control over his eye movements is encouraging. After Samuel left, Maya found herself alone with Marcus, but now the silence felt charged with possibility rather than one-sided. This is so strange, she said. I don't know how to talk to you now that I know you can hear me. Marcus blinked once, and somehow she understood it as encouragement. I keep thinking about all the things I told you, all the personal stuff. She felt heat rise in her cheeks. Like that time I told you about my fantasy of dating someone successful and charming who would actually pay for dinner. 1 blink, followed by what she could swear was a wink. Oh, did you just wink at me? Maya asked, laughing despite her embarrassment. Another definitive blink. Are you flirting with me, Marcus Bennett? The answer came without hesitation, 1 slow, deliberate blink that sent an unexpected thrill through her chest. This is insane, Maya murmured, but she was smiling now. I'm flirting with a patient who can only communicate through blinking. Marcus's expression somehow managed to convey amusement and affection simultaneously. For the record, Maya said, leaning closer, if you ever do recover enough to take me to dinner, you've already heard enough of my dating horror stories to know that the bar is set pretty low. 1 blink, pause, Then another blink, then another. "What are you trying to tell me?" Maya asked. Marcus repeated the pattern. 3 deliberate blinks. 3 words, Maya guessed. 1 confirming blink. Something with 3 words. "I love you." Marcus's entire face seemed to light up with the force of his single blink. Maya felt her world tilt on its axis. "Marcus!" He blinked once more, his gaze never leaving her face. And in that moment, Maya realized that everything she thought she knew about love was about to change. The communication device arrived on a Tuesday morning, wheeled into Marcus's room by a technician who explained its functions with the enthusiasm of someone unveiling revolutionary technology. The system tracked eye movements and translated them into synthesized speech, promising to give Marcus a voice for the first time in 3 years. Maya stood beside his bed, holding his hand, a gesture that had become natural since their breakthrough 2 weeks ago. The simple touch still sent a warm tingle up her arm, a reaction she was trying not to analyze too deeply. "Ready to hear your voice?" she asked. Marcus blinked once, his excitement palpable. The technician finished the calibration and stepped back. "Okay, Mr. Bennett. Look at the green square to activate the system." Marcus's gaze found the target, and suddenly a robotic but clearly masculine voice filled the room. "Testing. It works!" Maya exclaimed, squeezing his hand. Marcus's eyes moved deliberately across the screen, selecting letters and words. The process was slow, but the result was miraculous. "Maya can hear me now." "I can," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can hear you. Have so much to say." "We have time," Maya assured him. "We have all the time in the world." But even as she said it, Maya knew it wasn't entirely true. The hospital's budget crisis hadn't disappeared, and despite Dr. Rodriguez's advocacy, her position remained in jeopardy. She hadn't told Marcus about the potential job loss. There seemed to be enough overwhelming changes in his life without adding her employment worries. Samuel entered the room just as Marcus was painstakingly spelling out another message. "Thank you, both of you." "How's it feeling, Marcus?" Samuel asked, checking the monitor readings that had become second nature to all of them. "Strange, good strange, like waking up." Samuel made notes in his chart. "Your motor function tests showed some encouraging signs yesterday. Dr. Patterson thinks we might be able to start physical therapy soon." Maya felt a flutter of hope. Really, small movements at first, but the brain scans suggest the pathways are still intact. It's possible Marcus could regain significant function with time and therapy. Marcus's response took several minutes to compose, his eyes moving carefully across the letter grid. "Want to touch Maya's face, hold her hand with feeling, kiss her." The room fell silent. Maya felt heat flood her cheeks, while Samuel suddenly found the medical chart fascinating. "Marcus," Maya said softly, "maybe we should talk about this privately later." "No secrets anymore," came his measured response. 3 years of secrets. Want truth now." Samuel cleared his throat. "I should mention, there's something else we need to discuss. The hospital administration wants to meet with both of you tomorrow." Maya's stomach dropped. "About what?" "About Marcus's care going forward, and about your situation with the layoffs." "What layoffs?" Marcus's message appeared quickly, despite the laborious letter-by-letter process. Maya sighed. "I didn't want to worry you. The hospital is cutting night shift staff. I might be transferred to another department, or—" She couldn't finish. "No." The word appeared on the screen immediately. "Cannot lose you now." "Marcus, we'll figure something out," Samuel said, but his expression was troubled. "Have money, can pay for private nursing." "It's not that simple," Maya replied. "There are hospital protocols, ethics guidelines. I can't just become your private nurse because you can afford it." Marcus's agitation was visible in his elevated heart rate and the rapid movement of his eyes as he composed his response. "Then we'll discharge myself. Hire private care at home." "You're not medically stable enough for that," Samuel interjected, "and the logistics of home care for someone with your needs—" "We'll figure it out. We'll not lose Maya again." The word again hung in the air, loaded with implication. Maya realized that from Marcus's perspective, any separation felt like another loss, another form of being abandoned. "We're not talking about losing each other," Maya said gently. "Even if I have to work somewhere else, I can still visit. This doesn't end just because my employment situation changes. Not enough. Need you here. Need to know you are safe, close." Samuel's pager buzzed, and he glanced at it with a frown. "I need to take this call. Maya, can you stay with him for a bit?" After Samuel left, Maya pulled her chair closer to Marcus's bed. "Talk to me. What are you really scared of?" Marcus's response came slowly, thoughtfully. "Scared this is dream. Scared you will realize I am broken. Scared you only care because you feel sorry for me." "Oh, Marcus." Maya's heart ached at his vulnerability. "Look at me. Do you think pity is what I'm feeling right now?" His eyes found hers, and she continued, "What I feel for you isn't pity. It's complicated and it's probably crazy, but it's not pity." "Then what?" Maya took a deep breath, knowing that honesty was the only way forward. "I think I'm falling in love with you. Not the you in the magazines, not the success story, not even the you who might recover. I'm falling in love with the person who listened to my terrible dating stories without judgment, who somehow made me feel less alone even when you couldn't respond." Marcus's eyes widened, then moved rapidly across the communication screen. "Loved you before I saw your face clearly. Loved your voice, your kindness, your strength. Loved you when you cried, when you laughed, when you sang, thinking no one could hear." "You heard me sing?" Maya asked, mortified. Beautiful voice, terrible song choices. Despite everything, Maya laughed. "Hey, Call Me Maybe is a classic. If you say so." Their laughter faded into a comfortable silence, but the weight of their situation remained. Maya knew that their feelings, however real, existed in a bubble of crisis and medical intervention. The real world, with its practical concerns and ethical complications, was pressing in around them. "Marcus, we need to be realistic about this. Whatever is happening between us, it's complicated by your medical situation, by my job, by the fact that you're technically my patient." "I know. But Maya, realistic includes the possibility that I might recover. Realistic includes the possibility that we could have a real relationship. And if you don't recover?" Marcus's response took a long time, his eyes pausing frequently as he considered his words. "Then we figure out what love looks like in this reality. But I will not let fear of the future destroy the present." Maya squeezed his hand, marveling at the courage it took for him to be so open about his feelings when he was completely vulnerable, dependent on others for his most basic needs. "Okay," she said, "we'll figure it out. Together." But even as she made the promise, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time, that the complications surrounding them were growing more complex by the day. The conference room at St. Mary's Hospital felt oppressively formal as Maya sat across from 3 administrators and Dr. Rodriguez. Marcus's room had been equipped with a portable version of his communication device, so he could participate in what was essentially a meeting about his own fate. "Let me be clear about the situation," said Dr. Patricia Williams, the Chief of Staff. "Mr. Bennett's newfound ability to communicate has created some unique circumstances. We're dealing with questions of medical ethics, patient autonomy, and hospital policy." Maya's palms were sweating. Beside her, Samuel looked tense but supportive. "The primary issue," continued the hospital's legal counsel, "is that Mr. Bennett has explicitly requested that Miss Johnson remain as his primary caregiver. However, Miss Johnson's position has been eliminated due to budget constraints." Marcus's response came through the portable device, each word selected with deliberate care. "I understand the budget concerns. I am prepared to establish a fund to cover Maya's salary and my continued care." Dr. Williams leaned forward. "Mr. Bennett, we appreciate your generosity, but we can't simply accept payment to retain a specific employee." There are protocols, union agreements, and fairness considerations. Then I would like to explore transferring to a private facility where Maya can be hired as my nurse. Maya spoke up for the first time. Marcus, you can't uproot your entire medical care because of me. Watch me, came his immediate reply. The legal counsel shuffled through his papers. There's another complication, Mr. Bennett. The nature of your relationship with Ms. Johnson has evolved beyond a typical patient-caregiver dynamic. This raises ethical concerns about continuing professional care. Maya felt her cheeks burn. Our relationship is professional. With respect, Ms. Johnson, Dr. Williams said gently, our staff has observed interactions that suggest otherwise, and Mr. Bennett's own communications have been explicit about his feelings. Marcus's response was swift. My feelings for Maya developed over 3 years of her exceptional care. She treated me with dignity when I could not advocate for myself. If that created feelings beyond professional respect, I do not apologize for that. Samuel cleared his throat. From a medical standpoint, Marcus needs continuity of care during his transition to active communication and potential physical therapy. Disrupting his support system now could be detrimental to his recovery. Which brings us to a potential solution, Dr. Williams said. We could offer Ms. Johnson a position in our rehabilitation department. It would involve working with multiple patients, including Mr. Bennett, but would eliminate the exclusivity that's causing ethical concerns. Maya looked at Marcus, trying to read his expression. His eyes moved to the communication device. What do you want, Maya? The question hung in the air. What did she want? 6 months ago, her biggest concern had been whether she could afford her rent. Now she was being offered a chance to stay at the hospital, continue working with Marcus, and potentially advance her career in rehabilitation medicine. I want what's best for Marcus's recovery, she said carefully, but I also need to be honest about my own feelings. My objectivity as his caregiver has been compromised. Then step back. Everyone turned to look at Marcus, surprised by the firmness of his response. If Maya's career is at risk because of my feelings, then I will accept care from another nurse. Maya's future is more important than my comfort. Maya felt something break inside her chest. Marcus, no, you can't sacrifice your recovery for my career. I survived 3 years in silence. I can survive without you if it means you are safe and successful. That's not what I want, Maya said, her voice rising with emotion. I don't want to be reassigned to protect us from our feelings. I want to be reassigned because it's the right thing to do, but I still want to be part of your recovery. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. What if we approach this differently? Maya, you've mentioned wanting to advance your education. What if the hospital sponsored your training in rehabilitation therapy? You could work with Marcus as part of a team, under supervision, while developing skills that would benefit your long-term career. Maya blinked, processing the suggestion. You're offering to pay for additional training. Mr. Bennett's case has attracted attention from the medical community, Dr. Williams explained. Having a documented recovery process with a dedicated team could benefit our research programs. We could justify the educational investment. Marcus's response was immediate. Yes, Maya should have every opportunity to advance. I will fund whatever training she needs. Marcus, you can't just throw money at every problem, Maya protested. Can and will. Money is useless if the people I care about cannot achieve their dreams. The legal counsel made more notes. And this could work from an ethical standpoint. Miss Johnson would be a student, working under supervision, with Mr. Bennett as one of several cases she'd study. The personal relationship would be disclosed and monitored. Maya felt torn between gratitude and frustration. I need time to think about this. Of course, Dr. Williams said, but we'll need a decision by Friday. Mr. Bennett, are you comfortable with this arrangement? I am comfortable with whatever makes Maya happy and advances her career, but I have one condition, which is I want legal documentation that Maya will have job security regardless of budget cuts, and I want a guarantee that she can continue working with locked-in syndrome patients if that becomes her specialty. Dr. Williams exchanged glances with her colleagues. Mr. Bennett, you're essentially asking us to create a new position for Mrs. Johnson. Yes, I'm also prepared to endow a research center focused on consciousness disorders. Maya could head the nursing program when she completes her training. The room fell silent. Maya stared at Marcus, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was offering. You want to create a research center? Dr. Williams asked. I want to ensure that other patients like me receive the same quality of care Maya provided. I want families to have hope. I want medical professionals to have training. And I want Maya to have the career she deserves. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Marcus, this is too much. 3 years ago, I had millions of dollars and no purpose. You gave me purpose. This gives my money purpose. Samuel was grinning openly now. Dr. Williams, this could put St. Mary's on the map for neurological research. It's certainly an interesting proposal, Dr. Williams said carefully. We'd need to involve our development office, create proper legal frameworks. I have lawyers, Marcus responded. They can work with your people, but Maya's position and training start immediately. Maya looked around the room at the faces staring at her expectantly. What if I'm not cut out for research? What if I fail the training program? Marcus's answer came without hesitation. Impossible. But if you want to try something else, we will figure that out too. The point is choice. Maya, for the first time in your career, you get to choose your path instead of just surviving. Dr. Williams stood up. Mr. Bennett, Miss Johnson, Dr. Rodriguez, I think we have the framework for a solution. Let's adjourn so we can all consider the details. As the administrators filed out, Maya found herself alone with Marcus and Samuel. The portable communication device sat between them like a bridge, spanning an impossible gap. You just endowed a research center, Maya said, still processing. I just invested in the future, ours and others like us. Samuel shook his head in amazement. Marcus, do you realize what you've just committed to? We're talking about millions of dollars. I realize I spent 3 years listening to Maya talk about her dreams of helping people, of making a difference. This makes both possible. Maya moved closer to Marcus's bedside. What if this doesn't work out between us? What if the feelings we have now don't survive in the real world? Marcus's eyes found hers, and she could see the vulnerability beneath his determination. Then you will still have a career you love, helping people who need it, and I will still have made a difference in the world. Neither of those outcomes requires us to be together. But you hope we will be? I hope for many things. I hope to regain enough movement to hold your hand properly. I hope to take you to dinner and actually pay for it. I hope to prove that what we have is real outside of this hospital room. Maya felt her heart racing. And if you don't recover more than this, then I hope you will love me anyway. The simple honesty of his answer took her breath away. This man, who had every reason to be bitter about his limitations, was offering her not just a future, but a choice about what that future could look like. Okay, she whispered. Okay, to which part? All of it. The training, the research center, the hoping. She paused, then added, the loving you anyway. Marcus's smile was radiant, and for the first time since his accident, Maya could see glimpses of the charismatic man he had been, transformed by suffering into someone even more compelling. Should I leave you two alone? Samuel asked with a grin. Actually, Marcus responded through his device, I could use a medical consultation. How long before I might be able to kiss my girlfriend properly? Maya laughed despite her tears. Is that what I am? Your girlfriend? If you want to be, though I should warn you, I am a very demanding boyfriend. I require daily conversations, hand-holding, and at least one terrible pop song per week. I think I can manage that, Maya said, leaning down to press a gentle kiss to his forehead. But we're upgrading your music education. No more call me maybe. Deal. but I get to pick the next song you sing to me." As Maya settled into the familiar chair beside his bed, she realized that for the first time in years, the future felt full of possibility rather than just survival. The challenges ahead were enormous, but they would face them together, and for now, that was enough. 6 weeks after the meeting that changed everything, Maya stood in the newly renovated rehabilitation wing of St. Mary's Hospital, watching Marcus work with his physical therapist. The Bennett Center for Consciousness Disorders was still under construction, but Marcus's personal recovery had become the prototype for everything they hoped to achieve. "Focus on your fingers, Marcus," encouraged Dr. Lisa Chen, the specialist who had been brought in from Johns Hopkins. "Remember, we're looking for intentional movement, not reflex." Maya held her breath as Marcus concentrated, his face tight with effort. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, his right index finger moved, not much, barely a millimeter, but it was deliberate, controlled movement. "I saw it!" Maya exclaimed, unable to contain her excitement. Marcus's communication device activated. Did it work? Could not tell. "It worked, Doctor," Chen confirmed, making notes on her tablet. "We're seeing consistent improvement in your motor responses. I think we can start working on larger movements next week." Maya approached the bedside, her eyes bright with pride. "How does it feel?" "Like learning to be human again, frustrating and miraculous." Over the past weeks, Maya had started her rehabilitation therapy training, splitting her time between classes and working with Marcus. The arrangement had solved the ethical concerns while giving her the education she'd always dreamed of. More importantly, it had allowed their relationship to develop naturally, without the pressure of the patient-caregiver dynamic. "I brought lunch," Maya announced, pulling out containers from an insulated bag. "And before you say anything, yes, I cleared it with Dr. Chen. You're approved for solid foods." Marcus's eyes lit up. Since regaining consciousness, he had been limited to nutritional supplements and liquids. The prospect of actually tasting food again was almost overwhelming. "What did you bring?" "Italian from that place on Michigan Avenue. Nothing too complicated, just chicken parmesan and pasta." Maya set up a small table beside his bed and adjusted it to the right height. With Dr. Chen's help, they positioned Marcus more upright than he'd been since his accident. "Ready?" Maya asked, holding a fork with a small bite of chicken. Marcus blinked once, their old signal for yes. Maya brought the fork to his lips, and he managed to open his mouth slightly. When he tasted the food, his eyes closed in what looked like rapture. "Good?" Maya asked. "Better than good? Forgot what flavor was like." Maya fed him slowly, patiently, pausing between bites to let him savor each taste. It was intimate in a way that felt both familiar and completely new. This wasn't the clinical feeding of a comatose patient. This was sharing a meal with someone she loved. "Maya," Marcus said through his device, "want to try something." "What?" "Want to try to feed myself." Maya exchanged glances with Dr. Chen, who nodded encouragingly. They positioned the fork in Marcus's right hand, supporting his arm and wrist. With tremendous effort and concentration, he managed to lift it several inches off the table. "That's incredible," Maya said. 6 weeks ago, you couldn't blink on command. Now you're lifting a fork." "Small victories," Marcus replied, but she could see the satisfaction in his expression. Dr. Chen finished her session notes and gathered her equipment. "I'll see you tomorrow, Marcus." "Maya, excellent work today. Your progress in the training program has been remarkable." After Dr. Chen left, Maya settled into her usual chair, but Marcus stopped her with a request that made her heart skip. "Come closer. Want to try something else?" Maya moved her chair as close to the bed as possible. "What do you want to try?" Marcus's eyes tracked to his communication device. "Want to touch your face with my hand." Maya felt her breath catch. "Are you sure you're ready for that?" "Been dreaming about it for 3 years. Ready." Maya positioned herself so that his right hand was close to her cheek. With visible effort, Marcus lifted his hand and managed to brush his fingertips against her skin. The touch was light, barely there, but Maya felt it like an electric shock. "Can you feel that?" she whispered. "Everything. Can feel how soft your skin is. Can feel you trembling." Maya realized she was indeed trembling, not from fear, but from the overwhelming intimacy of the moment. This was their first real touch, the first time Marcus had been able to actively participate in any physical contact between them. "I've wanted to touch you for so long," Marcus continued through his device. "I've wanted to hold your hand, stroke your hair, wipe away your tears." "You're touching me now," Maya said, leaning slightly into his hand. Marcus managed to move his thumb, creating a caressing motion against her cheek. It was clumsy, uncontrolled, but it was his choice, his movement, his touch. "Maya, need to tell you something important." "What?" Marcus's response took several minutes to compose, his eyes moving carefully across the letters. "These weeks, working together, watching you learn, seeing your passion for helping others, I have fallen even more in love with you, not just grateful, not just attached, actually completely in love." Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Marcus, no, it is complicated. No, I may never be the man you imagined loving, but what I feel for you is real and strong and not going away." Maya turned her head to press a gentle kiss to his palm. "What I feel for you isn't going away either. But I need you to know that I don't love you because of what you might become. I love you because of who you are right now, in this moment, even if this is as much as I recover. Even then, Marcus, you've created a research center to help other people like you. You've given me opportunities I never dreamed of. You've shown me what it means to face impossible circumstances with grace and determination. How could I not love that man?" Marcus's attempt to cup her face was awkward, his motor control still limited, but Maya had never felt anything more romantic than his clumsy, determined caress. "Want to kiss you," he said through the device. Maya's heart raced. "Uga, we can try. Dr. Chen said you're regaining some control over your facial muscles." Maya leaned closer, close enough that she could feel his breath on her lips. Marcus managed to turn his head slightly toward her, and when their lips met, it was soft, brief, and imperfect, and absolutely perfect at the same time. When they separated, both of them were crying. "First kiss," Marcus managed to say. "First of many," Maya promised. They spent the rest of the afternoon practicing his movements, lifting his hand, moving his fingers, turning his head. Each tiny achievement felt like a victory, not just for his recovery, but for their future together. As the sun set outside his window, Maya realized that she had never felt more hopeful about anything in her life. The man she loved was literally fighting his way back to her, one small movement at a time. And she would be there for every single step of the journey. The alarm jolted Maya awake at 3:17 a.m. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from St. Mary's Hospital, and her heart immediately plummeted to her stomach. She called back while throwing on clothes, her hands shaking as she dialed. "Maya, it's Dr. Rodriguez. You need to get here immediately. Marcus is in distress." "What kind of distress? What happened?" "His motor functions have regressed dramatically overnight. He can't move his hand anymore, and he's having difficulty with the communication device. We're running tests now." Maya was already in her car, breaking several speed limits as she raced through the empty Chicago streets. 2 weeks had passed since their first kiss, 2 weeks of steady progress and growing hope. Marcus had been scheduled to start more intensive physical therapy, and they had been talking about the possibility of him eventually transitioning to outpatient care. The ICU was buzzing with activity when Maya arrived. Dr. Chen was adjusting Marcus's position while Samuel studied brain scans with a colleague she didn't recognize. "What's his status?" Maya asked, approaching the bed. Marcus's eyes tracked to her, but she could immediately see the difference. The controlled movements he had worked so hard to achieve were gone. His communication attempts were labored and imprecise. Maya here appeared slowly on his screen, each letter selected with obvious difficulty. "I'm here," she said, taking his hand. "What happened? How are you feeling?" "Scared. Cannot move like before. Everything harder." Dr. Chen looked up from her examination. "His reflexes are diminished, and the intentional movements we've been seeing have reverted to pre-recovery levels. We're not sure why yet." "Could this be related to the physical therapy?" Maya asked. "Maybe we pushed too hard too fast?" "It's possible," Samuel said, joining them at the bedside. "But the brain scans aren't showing any new trauma or bleeding. Sometimes recovery isn't linear. There can be plateaus, even temporary reversals." Maya felt panic rising in her chest. "Temporary? How temporary?" "We don't know yet. It could be days, weeks, or—" Samuel's voice trailed off. "Or permanent," Maya finished. Marcus's labored typing appeared on the screen. "Failing you again." "You're not failing anyone," Maya said firmly. "Bodies heal in their own time. We just have to be patient. What if this is as good as it gets? What if yesterday was the best day we will ever have?" The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything they had built together. Maya realized that somewhere in the back of her mind, she had begun to assume that Marcus's recovery would continue indefinitely, that eventually they would have something approaching a normal relationship. Now, faced with the possibility that his condition might be permanent, she had to confront what that really meant for their future. "Then yesterday was perfect," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos in her heart. "And if that's all we get, then we'll build something beautiful with what we have." Easy to say now, harder to live with reality. Dr. Chen finished her examination and motioned for Maya and Samuel to step aside. "I need to be honest with you both. Setbacks like this can be psychologically devastating for patients. Depression, loss of motivation, giving up, these are real concerns. What can we do?" Maya asked. "Continue the therapy, but adjust expectations. Focus on communication and cognitive function rather than motor recovery. And be prepared for the possibility that this is his new baseline." Maya nodded, trying to process the information professionally while her personal feelings churned beneath the surface. When she returned to Marcus's bedside, his message was waiting. "Want you to be happy. If this is permanent, you should find someone who can give you normal life." "Don't you dare," Maya said, her voice sharp with emotion. "Don't you dare try to make this decision for me." "Being realistic. Being a coward," Maya shot back, then immediately regretted the harsh words. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean that." "Yes, you did, and you are right." "And being coward," Maya pulled her chair closer to the bed. "Marcus, look at me. 3 months ago, I was working night shifts with no future prospects, dating men who couldn't even pay for dinner, convinced that I was destined to settle for whatever scraps of affection I could find. Do you remember what you told me through that communication device?" "What?" "You told me that I deserved to choose my path instead of just surviving. Well, I'm choosing. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing this life. I'm choosing whatever we can build together. And I'm not doing it because I feel sorry for you or because I think I can't do better. I'm doing it because I love you." Marcus's response was slow in coming. "Even if I never improve beyond this, even then, even if I need full-time care forever, even then, even if we can never have a completely normal relationship." Maya leaned down and kissed his forehead gently. "Do Marcus, normal is overrated. I've tried normal. Normal is guys who split dinner checks and forget to call back. Normal is settling for less than you deserve because you don't think you're worth more." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "What we have isn't normal. It's better. It's a man who listened to my dreams for 3 years and then made them possible. It's someone who sees my potential even when I don't. It's a love that developed without physical attraction, without financial considerations, without any of the usual complications. It's based on who we really are as people. And if that is enough for you, it's more than enough. It's everything." Marcus managed to move his eyes in what might have been an attempt at their old winking gesture. "Then we figure out how to build a life together, whatever that looks like." Maya felt relief wash over her. "Whatever that looks like," Over the following days, Marcus's condition stabilized at the reduced level of function. The intensive motor therapy was discontinued, but his communication abilities remained strong. More importantly, his determination returned. "Been thinking," he told Maya one afternoon as she helped him with his lunch. "About the research center. Want to add something." "What's that?" "Support program for families and caregivers. People like you who love someone like me. Resources, counseling, practical help." Maya smiled, recognizing the man she had fallen in love with, someone who could transform his own struggles into a way to help others. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Also been thinking about us, about what our life could look like. And want to ask you something important, but need to wait until I can do it properly." Maya felt a flutter of anticipation mixed with anxiety. "What do you mean, properly?" Marcus's smile was unmistakable, even with his limited facial control. "You will see. But Maya..." "Yes? Start thinking about what kind of ring you might like." Maya's heart stopped. "Marcus Bennett, are you..." "Not yet, but soon. Very soon." As Maya sat beside the man she loved, watching him plan their future despite his limitations, she realized that setbacks and obstacles couldn't diminish what they had built together. If anything, they had proven that their love was strong enough to weather any storm. The road ahead might be different than they had originally imagined, but it was still theirs to travel together. 3 months after the setback, Maya walked into Marcus's room to find it transformed. Soft lighting had replaced the harsh hospital fluorescence, and someone had brought in dozens of white roses. Classical music played softly from a small speaker, and Marcus himself looked different. He was wearing an actual shirt instead of a hospital gown, and his hair had been professionally styled. "What is all this?" Maya asked, looking around in wonder. Marcus's communication device was ready with a response. "Our 3-year anniversary. 3 years since the day you first spoke to me." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "You remembered the exact date? Remembered everything. Your first words to me were, 'Good evening, room 314. Ready for another riveting night together.' I can't believe you remember that. Remember every word you ever said to me. But tonight is about the future, not the past." Dr. Rodriguez appeared in the doorway, looking uncharacteristically formal in a suit and tie. "Maya, could you join us? There's something Marcus wants to discuss with you." Maya looked between the two men suspiciously. "What's going on?" "Sit down," Samuel said, indicating the chair that had been positioned beside Marcus's bed. Marcus had been working with a new type of communication device that tracked not just eye movements, but also subtle facial muscle contractions. His speech was still slow and deliberate, but more fluid than before. "Maya Johnson," Marcus began, 3 years ago, you walked into my life when I had lost everything, my body, my independence, my hope. You gave me all of those things back, not through medicine, but through love." Maya's hands flew to her mouth as she realized what was happening. "You loved me when I could not respond. You dreamed with me when I could not speak. You saw a future when I could only see darkness. You chose me when you could have chosen anyone." Samuel moved closer to the bed and carefully lifted Marcus's right hand. In his fingers, held with tremendous effort and concentration, was a small, velvet box. "Cannot get down on one knee," Marcus continued through his device. "Cannot put this ring on your finger myself. Cannot promise you a traditional marriage or a conventional life. But I can promise you my whole heart, my complete devotion, and every resource I have to build whatever kind of life we want together." Maya was crying openly now, her hands shaking as she watched Marcus struggle to maintain his grip on the ring box. "Maya Johnson, will you marry me?" The room fell silent except for the quiet beeping of monitors and Maya's soft sobs. Samuel stood ready to help, but clearly this moment belonged to her and Marcus. "You beautiful, impossible man," Maya whispered. "Yes, of course, yes." Samuel carefully took the ring box from Marcus's hand and opened it to reveal a stunning but understated solitaire diamond. "Marcus picked this out himself," he said, He spent weeks studying different styles online to find something he thought you'd love. It's perfect, Maya said, extending her left hand, as Samuel slipped the ring onto her finger. Marcus's face lit up with pure joy. "I wish I could have done that myself." "You did everything that mattered," Maya said, leaning down to kiss him softly. "You chose me. You asked me. You made this moment perfect. So you will really marry me, even though I cannot carry you over the threshold or dance at our wedding. Marcus, I would marry you if we had to have the ceremony right here in this hospital room. I would marry you if you never recovered another bit of movement. I would marry you if this communication device was the only way we could ever talk." "Funny you should mention the hospital room wedding," Samuel interjected with a grin. Maya looked at him suspiciously. "What do you mean?" Marcus's device activated. "Surprise number 2. Have arranged for wedding ceremony here next month. Unless you want big traditional wedding. Here, in the hospital, in the new chapel they built for the Bennett Center. With our friends, our medical team, your family, thought you might prefer intimate ceremony to media circus." Maya realized that Marcus had thought of everything, the complications of a public wedding, the logistics of his medical needs, the desire for privacy during such a personal moment. "A hospital wedding sounds perfect," she said, "but I have one condition. Anything. I want to write my own vows, and I want you to write yours too, not just use traditional ones." "Deal, but I warn you, my vows may take a very long time to deliver through this device." Maya laughed through her tears. "I'll wait. I've gotten pretty good at waiting for you to finish your thoughts." Samuel cleared his throat. "I hate to interrupt this beautiful moment, but I have one more surprise for you both." "More surprises?" Maya asked. "Marcus, tell her about the honeymoon." Marcus's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Have rented villa in Tuscany, fully accessible, with medical equipment and private nursing staff. Thought we could spend 2 weeks learning what married life looks like. You planned a honeymoon. Planned everything, even researched wheelchair-accessible vineyards." Maya shook her head in amazement. "How long have you been planning this proposal?" "Since the day you told me you loved me anyway. Been working with Samuel and a wedding planner to handle all the logistics." "What wedding planner?" Samuel grinned. "Your best friend Leah. She's been in on this for weeks. Leah knew and didn't tell me. Threatened her with legal action if she spoiled the surprise," Marcus replied. "Also may have bribed her with an all-expenses-paid trip to Italy to serve as your maid of honor." Maya burst into laughter. "You thought of everything. Tried to want our beginning to be as perfect as possible." Maya looked down at her ring, then at the man who had somehow managed to plan an entire wedding from a hospital bed, using only eye movements and determination. "Marcus, yes, I love you. Not just anyway, not in spite of anything. I love you completely, exactly as you are, exactly as we are. I love you too, and Maya, yes. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Thank you for loving me when I was lost. Thank you for choosing our future when it seemed impossible." Maya settled into her familiar chair beside his bed, but everything felt different now. They weren't just patient and caregiver anymore, or even just boyfriend and girlfriend. They were engaged, planning a life together, building something that would last. "One more question," Maya said. "What, after we're married, do I still have to sing you terrible pop songs?" Marcus's laughter came through the communication device as synthesized sound, but Maya could see the real joy in his eyes. "Only if you want to, but I have developed a fondness for your terrible singing voice." "Good," Maya said, taking his hand. Because I'm not planning to stop any time soon." As the evening wore on, Maya began to understand that this wasn't just an engagement. It was a declaration that their love could overcome any obstacle, adapt to any limitation, and create beauty in the most unlikely circumstances. Their story had begun with her talking to someone who couldn't respond. Now it was evolving into a conversation that would last a lifetime. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the Bennett Center for Consciousness Disorders as Maya made her rounds, her wedding ring catching the light as she checked patient charts. Dr. Maya Bennett, she still got a thrill from seeing her married name on her ID badge, had completed her rehabilitation therapy certification and was now heading the nursing program for the center. "Good morning, Mrs. Patterson," she said to the woman sitting beside bed 3. "How is James doing today?" "He squeezed my hand this morning," the woman replied, her eyes bright with hope. "It was just for a second, but it was definitely intentional." Maya smiled, checking James's chart. He had been diagnosed with locked-in syndrome just 6 months ago, and his wife was following the same emotional journey Maya had traveled with Marcus. "That's wonderful progress. Have you been talking to him like we discussed?" "Every day. I tell him about our grandchildren, about what's happening in the neighborhood, about my terrible cooking attempts." Mrs. Patterson laughed softly. "Sometimes I feel silly, but don't feel silly," Maya said firmly. "Keep talking. Keep believing. You'd be amazed what love can accomplish." After finishing her rounds, Maya walked to the executive wing of the center, where Marcus maintained an office despite still requiring full-time medical support. The transition to outpatient care had been successful, though he remained dependent on his wheelchair and communication device. She found him in a video conference with architects in Seattle, planning the second Bennett Center. His communication had become remarkably fluent with practice, and he had learned to operate his computer system with impressive speed. "The physical therapy pools need to be larger," he was saying through his device. "Or recovery isn't just about regaining function, it's about regaining dignity." Maya waited until his meeting ended before approaching his desk. "How's the Seattle project coming?" "Good. They want to break ground next spring." Marcus's face lit up as she entered his visual range. "How was your morning?" James Patterson squeezed his wife's hand. "Excellent. Progress. Slow but steady. Like someone else I know." Marcus's improvement over the past year had been modest but meaningful. He had regained some control over his facial expressions and could manage small hand movements with effort. More importantly, he had found purpose in their shared mission of helping other families navigate the challenges they had faced. "Speaking of progress," Maya said, settling into the chair beside his desk, "Dr. Rodriguez called. The research paper about your recovery has been accepted by the New England Journal of Medicine." "Our recovery," Marcus corrected, "could not have done any of this without you. We make a good team. The best team. Maya, there is something I want to discuss with you." Maya raised an eyebrow. "That sounds ominous. Should I be worried?" "Not worried. Excited, I hope." Marcus's eyes moved across his communication system with practiced efficiency. "I have been thinking about expanding our family." Maya's breath caught. They had talked about children in abstract terms, but the practical realities had always seemed overwhelming. "Adoption?" she asked carefully, was thinking more immediate. "There is a 13-year-old girl in the foster system. Her parents died in the car accident that left her with a traumatic brain injury. She is recovering, but needs specialized care and a family who understands medical challenges." Maya felt her heart racing. "Marcus, her name is Riley. She has been in 3 foster homes since her accident because families cannot handle her medical needs. But we could. We have the resources, the understanding, the love. A teenager with brain injury. Who better to raise her than us? We know what recovery looks like. We know how to hope when things seem hopeless. We know how to love someone whose body does not work the way it should." Maya was quiet for a long moment, processing the magnitude of what he was suggesting. "Have you met her?" "Video calls with her social worker. She is funny, determined, frustrated with her limitations, but fighting to overcome them. She reminds me of someone I know." "When would this happen?" "Social worker wants to meet with us next week." "But Maya, I will not do this without your full enthusiasm. Parenting is hard enough without adding medical complications." Maya looked at her husband, this remarkable man who had transformed tragedy into purpose, who had built a research empire from a hospital bed, who somehow managed to see opportunity in every challenge. "What does she like?" Maya asked. Marcus's smile was radiant. "Art. She cannot hold brushes well yet, but she creates digital paintings on a tablet. And music. She has been teaching herself piano with one functioning hand. She sounds incredible. She is. But more than that, she needs us. And I think we need her too. Maya realized that he was right. Their love had grown from taking care of each other, from building something meaningful together. A child who needed what they had learned to give felt like the natural next step. "Okay," she said, "let's meet her. Really, really. But I have conditions. Name them. We take it slow. We make sure she wants to be part of our family as much as we want her, and we get her the best art supplies money can buy." Marcus's joy was infectious. "Deal, Maya." "Yes. I love you. I love our life. I love what we have built together." Maya leaned over to kiss him softly. "I love you too. All of you, all of this, all of what we're becoming." As the afternoon sun slanted across Marcus's office, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them here. 3 years ago, she had been a lonely night shift nurse, talking to a man she thought couldn't hear her. Now she was a specialist in her field, married to her best friend, running a research center that was changing lives around the world. Their love story hadn't followed any conventional pattern. There had been no dramatic chase scene, no moment when the hero swept the heroine off her feet. Instead, it had been built conversation by conversation, choice by choice, small victory by small victory. Marcus had never regained full mobility. He would always need assistance with basic tasks, would always depend on technology to communicate efficiently. But he had regained his purpose, his joy, and his ability to love and be loved. Maya had never become a traditional doctor, but she had found a way to heal people that went far beyond medicine. She had learned that sometimes the most powerful treatment was simply refusing to give up on someone. Together, they had proven that love could transcend any limitation, that families could be built in the most unlikely circumstances, and that the most beautiful happily ever afters often looked nothing like anyone expected. "Id ready to go home?" Maya asked as Marcus finished saving his work. "Always ready to go home with you," he replied through his device. As Maya helped transfer Marcus to his specialized transport chair, she caught sight of their reflection in the office window. A woman in scrubs pushing a wheelchair, both of them wearing wedding rings. Both of them smiling with the contentment of people who had found exactly where they belonged. Their house in Lincoln Park had been completely renovated for accessibility, but it felt like a real home rather than a medical facility. Maya had insisted on that. They needed a place where Marcus was a husband first and a patient second. That evening, as they sat on their accessible deck overlooking the garden Marcus had designed, Maya read aloud from the foster care file about Riley. The girl's story was heartbreaking but inspiring. A young artist learning to create beauty despite her limitations, not unlike the man Maya had married. "She wants to be a graphic designer when she grows up," Maya said. "Says that digital art is perfect because computers don't care if your hands shake." "Wise girl," Marcus replied. "When do we meet her?" "Next Thursday." "Are you nervous?" "Terrified. What if she does not like us? What if we are not good parents?" Maya set down the file and took his hand. "Marcus, you've spent the last year helping families navigate the most difficult situations imaginable. You've created programs that have changed hundreds of lives. You've shown me what it means to love without conditions. I think we'll figure out parenting. And if we do not, then we'll ask for help, just like we did with everything else. We're good at asking for help now." Marcus smiled at that. One of the most important lessons of their relationship had been learning that independence wasn't about doing everything alone. It was about knowing when and how to accept support. "There is something else," Marcus said. "Got a call today from the documentary crew. They want to film the adoption process if we decide to proceed." Maya groaned. "More publicity." "Last time, I promise." "But Maya, think about the families who might see it. Think about the children in foster care who need parents willing to handle medical challenges. Think about the hope it could give people." Maya knew he was right. Their wedding had been featured in a documentary about locked-in syndrome that had raised awareness and funding for research. The attention had been overwhelming at times, but it had also connected them with hundreds of families facing similar challenges. "Okay," she said, "but no cameras in our bedroom. Deal, though I should mention they want to interview you about the nursing program you developed." "What about it?" "About how teaching families to communicate with consciousness disorder patients has improved recovery outcomes by 40%. Maya felt a flush of pride. The program she had created, based on her own experience with Marcus, was being implemented in hospitals across the country. "And I'm proud of what we've built," she said. "I am proud of what you have built, the nursing program, the family support services, the advocacy work. That is all you, Maya." "It's all us," she corrected. "None of this would exist without your vision and resources, and none of it would work without your heart and expertise." As the sun set over Chicago, Maya reflected on how different their evening conversations were now compared to 3 years ago. Then she had talked to Marcus because she thought he needed to hear a human voice. Now they talked because they were partners in every sense of the word, in love, in work, in their shared mission to help others. "Maya, yes, are you happy?" It was a question Marcus asked periodically, and Maya knew it came from his ongoing concern that she had settled for less than she deserved. "I'm more than happy," she said. "I'm fulfilled. I'm challenged. I'm loved. I'm making a difference in the world. What more could I want? Normal husband who can dance with you." Maya laughed. "Marcus, we dance all the time. Maybe not on our feet, but we dance. When you make me laugh until I cry, that's dancing. When we work together to solve a problem, that's dancing. When we lie in bed talking about our dreams, that's dancing. Never thought of it that way. Besides, I've seen your pre-accident dancing in those old magazine photos. Trust me, we're better off this way." Marcus's laughter filled the evening air through his communication device, and Maya felt the familiar warmth of sharing joy with the person she loved most. Later that night, as Maya helped Marcus with his evening routine, she thought about the conversation with Riley's social worker, scheduled for the following week. The idea of parenting a teenager with medical challenges seemed daunting, but it also felt like the natural evolution of everything they had learned about love, patience, and hope. "Marcus? Whatever happens with Riley, whatever our family ends up looking like, I want you to know that you've given me the most extraordinary life. We have given each other extraordinary life," he corrected through his device. As Maya settled into bed beside her husband, listening to the quiet hum of his medical equipment that had become as familiar as breathing, she realized that their love story was still being written. Every day brought new challenges and new possibilities, new ways to grow and help others grow. 3 years ago, she had been a woman talking to a man who couldn't respond, never imagining he heard every word. Now she was a woman building a life with a man who heard not just her words, but her heart, her dreams, her hopes for their future together. And tomorrow they would wake up and continue writing their story. One conversation, one small victory, one act of love at a time. It wasn't the fairy tale ending she had once imagined, but it was something better. It was real, it was theirs, and it was absolutely perfect. 5 years later, Maya Bennett stood before a packed auditorium at the International Conference on Consciousness Disorders. Her 17-year-old daughter Riley in the front row, holding a tablet displaying her latest digital artwork, a portrait of a family that had learned to love without limitations. 5 years ago, Maya began, I thought I knew what love looked like. I thought I knew what a family should be. I thought recovery meant returning to exactly what you were before. She paused, finding Marcus in his usual spot in the accessibility section, his communication device ready as always, his eyes bright with pride. I was wrong about all of it, she continued. Love isn't about perfection. Families aren't about fitting a mold. And recovery isn't about going back. It's about moving forward into something new and beautiful. In the audience, Dozens of families touched by locked-in syndrome and other consciousness disorders listened to the woman who had become their advocate, their voice, their proof that hope was never misplaced. Today, I want to tell you about the power of never giving up on someone, about the magic that happens when we choose to see potential instead of limitations, and about the extraordinary life that becomes possible when we learn to love not just in spite of our challenges, but because of how those challenges have shaped us into who we're meant to be. As Maya continued her keynote address, Marcus watched the woman who had saved his life by simply refusing to treat him as anything less than fully human. She had kept talking when he couldn't respond, kept hoping when hope seemed impossible, and kept loving when love required everything she had to give. Their story had become larger than either of them had imagined, touching thousands of lives through the Bennett Centers, the research programs, the family support networks, and the simple but revolutionary idea that every person, no matter their limitations, deserved to be seen, heard, and loved. But at its heart, it remained what it had always been. The story of two people who found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and chose to build something beautiful together. One word, one moment, one act of faith at a time. And they were still talking, still listening, still writing their story together, proving every day that the most powerful words are often the ones spoken to someone who might not be able to respond, but who is always, always listening. The end. Thanks for watching to the end. Did you like the story? Tell us what you thought in the comments below. We want to know what you think. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe now for more exciting stories you won't want to miss. Activate the bell to be notified whenever a new video comes out. See you in the next story. See you there.